Good evening to all. Thank you for joining us one more on another episode of our podcast. This evening, my guest, Mr. Sergis, will speak a little about himself before we go right into our episode for this evening.
Good night, everybody. My name is Quinn Segis. It's a pleasure to be on this podcast with Samson. I remember when Samson told me that he was starting the podcast, or he had plans to start the podcast, and I'm really proud that he has started, man. I'm a podcaster myself. I host the Game Changers podcast. I'm also a business owner. I own a baking business. I also, my day job, I am a news reporter as well. Yeah, so I wear several hats. That's only my professional hats. In the church, I wear the role of an AY leader as well as a Sabbath school teacher. And what else can I say about myself? I mean, I love young people. I love engaging with young people. I am somebody who wants to do the best for myself, and also wants to do the best for those around me. Yeah, so that's basically me.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on. Our
Thank you for having me.
yeah, our topic for this episode is why take on responsibility, especially
Right.
in society today. Things going astray, but I won't get ahead of myself. So to
Okay.
kick it off, what does responsibility really mean to you? What does that word mean?
Well, I think responsibility, at least to me, means taking charge, right? So taking control of certain things in your life, whether it be um at work, at school for some people who are at school, or at home, or in church even. It's taking control of certain elements of your life. So I believe that's what responsibility is.
Yeah, especially taking charge,
Yes.
especially as you go older, it becomes more different. You are
Mm-hmm.
placed on a limbo in a way.
Right.
Your the responsibility in a sense shifts from you to your
Mm-hmm.
parents, from your parents to you,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually it comes to a point where you have to take on everything on your own and carry on legacy of children and so on and so forth. So
Right.
responsibility is very essential to learn how to control,
Mm-hmm.
because
For sure.
without control, what is life? Chaos. You know,
Yes.
without a shelter, you'll be left cold, hungry, starving. But the way we have
Mm-hmm.
our society, we implement control. We implement different structures. We put structure
Right.
together and we
Mm-hmm.
allow things to flourish. And things can only flourish in structure, you know?
You're right.
Because without structure, society just breaks down. So now when we bring that into our personal lives, we need to have structure in our lives. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know about Jordan Peterson. He has
Yes,
a
I do.
very essential thing. The first thing when you wake up is to make your bed. Why make
Right.
your bed of all things? Because it implements structure into your everyday, and the
Mm-hmm.
psychological effect it has on you on a daily basis. It 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 orders your mind, it
Mm-hmm.
directs your mind, it focuses your mind to start the day with order
Right.
rather than chaos. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Agreed.
how you think, in what I'm saying now, how you think us taking on responsibility can put order to the chaos in our life?
Well, like you said, when you take responsibility, you like I said as well, you take control of over certain things. And too often in our life, too often in society, we just let things happen however they want to happen. That we just let things go willy-nilly, as they say. So taking charge or taking control would put things in order, would put things, aligned up as they should be. I think too often we, like I said, we let things go. And um this is why our world, I think, is going down such a disastrous path. because too many good people, I think Martin Luther King was the one who said that. He said, basically that the reason at the end of the time, the reason why things would go bad is because good people did not stand up and take charge, right? That's me paraphrasing him. That's not the actual quote. I can't remember it off my head, but this is me paraphrasing him. Yeah, and that's the reality. If we do not take charge, if we do not take control of our lives, over the lives of our loved ones, then we will consistently go down the wrong paths, and that's not good for anybody.
Yeah, because without that guiding light of taking on the responsibilities that come into our life and we choose to take on, it will not only be to our detriment, but also for the detriment of others around us.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Agreed.
So we could just segue into our next question up for discussion. Is it important to take on responsibility? Because we see many times in our society, especially in young men, not wanting to take on a job, or when they impregnate young ladies, not wanting to take on the responsibility of helping that child to go forward, leaving the single mothers alone, and so on and so forth. You know? So is it really important to take on responsibility?
Mm-hmm. I think it is. I think it is absolutely important. Especially like you said about children. Children do not know what is right and wrong. Children, well, they have some moral guidance, but they don't really know, the true paths of right and wrong. And without the guidance of their parents or the guidance of older people, they would not know which path is the true path. So you want to ask the question again?
Yeah. We had a little technical difficulty. The question was, is it really important, right, to take on responsibility?
Absolutely. I would say it's really important to take on responsibility, because especially when you're guiding children, children do not generally know right from wrong unless you tell them or unless you show them, right? And when you do take on that responsibility, you become a beacon, not for yourself alone, but for those around you. Because when you take that charge, you allow yourself, or you allow them to see the difference between right and wrong, and have a pathway for themselves as well. So yes, I see it as absolutely important, mandatory to take responsibility.
Yeah, because even when you help to direct and mentor and guide the children, you yourself
Mm-hmm.
become mentor and guided as well. Not that they teach you, but
Mm-hmm.
in teaching them, you learn more
You
about
learn, right?
yourself.
Absolutely.
You, you it's as though you are molded in the fire, in
Right.
the
That's
fire
exactly
of
what it
their
is.
disobedience, in the fire of
Right.
their curiosity, in
Mm-hmm.
the fire of their naivety. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you yourself become changed because responsibility doesn't only give you control of your surroundings, but it helps you to control yourself. Because
Right.
I guess if we are all honest about ourselves, we can really say that if it was not for my scheduling, I would have been helter skelter. If it was
Right.
for
A
me,
child.
yeah, exactly, we'll be as a
Yes.
child. Not in the way the Bible says, be as a child, but we'll be as
Yeah,
a
right. Right.
child
Right.
in a
Right.
different kind of way, you know? And I really think that it's essential to take on responsibility to mold yourself to become more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like a child, we grow up, we mature in a physical sense. But there's also a spiritual side of us, there's a psychological side of us, there's a mental side of us, there's
Right.
a psychological side of us, right? And all of these things are different levels of maturity. Now, with age, our physical body matures, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily mean the same for our mental capacity,
Right.
our spiritual maturity, our psychological maturity, being able to deal with traumas and all of these different things. So as we take on responsibility, as we take on the role of carrying the burden, because if you really look at the scripture, without the sweat of your brow, you will not eat bread. You see that
Right.
in the physical sense, but the bread can connotate to peace of understanding, because if you if you do not put in the work, the sweat to control your
Mm-hmm.
emotions, you eat the bread of bitterness. You will not be able to
Right.
control your emotions, be able to control your reactions. Is as
Mm-hmm.
you own yourself in the trial of responsibility, then you can really come out as gold.
Right. Absolutely.
So how you think the responsibilities in your personal life have changed you?
That's a great question. You know what? When you're in charge of something, like you rightfully said, you grow. You are forced to grow. You know, let's take for example my responsibilities at church. Let's start with church. There were certain skills that I learned on the go. There were certain skills that I had to learn in order to become a leader. So it has transformed me, it has matured me in that sense. If you think of my work, let's talk about my businesses. You have to become financially aware. You have to be able to manage finances, manage, clients, manage relationships. So even that responsibility grew me as well. So I think it's important when you to first of all to take on these challenges, right? And when you do take on these challenges, be prepared to grow. Because if you're not ready to grow, then you will fail. Because you have to grow in order to do well at these challenges or these responsibilities. So yes,
Yeah,
that's
because
how it does go.
I like you mentioned grow. Talk more about that. What do you mean by grow? Because you can grow towards the sun, but there can
Right.
also be a downward growth. What
Well,
kind of
that's true.
growth? What kind of growth is that?
So I meant growth as in improving in skills or improving in knowledge as well, right? So you have to become better at said skill in order to teach somebody else or to develop that skill in another person, right? Or even if you can't do the thing yourself, you must be able to develop the skill of delegation, right? And know, okay, this is what we need to accomplish. Even if I can't do it myself, I know that what we have to get to, so then I can give it to somebody else so they can do it for me, and then they can do it, so we can get towards our goal. So yeah, I meant growth in the terms of developing skills or the skill development. Yeah.
Yeah, because I like what you said there in delegation, right? And responsibility, as I said, isn't only for you, but it's also for others. It's like working in a
Mm-hmm.
team, especially when
Yes.
you are leading a team or even being part of a team, because not all
Mm-hmm.
the time we can be leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing how to communicate, how to
Mm-hmm.
relate, how to understand others to get the work accomplished. Because sometimes I know we've all met the guy or the girl in the group who wants to do everything on their own,
Right.
who feel they have no need for others, and if you mess up, they'll do your part too.
Right. And but you know that what I've learned, Samson, that is actually a irresponsible type of behavior,
Mm,
right? Because I think part of being responsible is saying, hey, I can't handle everything.
yeah,
Or this is something that I'm not good at, so give it to somebody else. If you take on everything at all times, that is irresponsible behavior,
yeah,
right? Because you will end up not being able to take care of your responsibilities.
yeah,
Right. So I think people should focus on their strengths. Yes, develop their weaknesses, but focus on their strengths and then delegate the weaker points to other people so that they can the job can't get done, right? Because if you do everything, that is, like I said, very, very irresponsible.
Yeah, because you will carry the burden on one end, but there will be breaches and you will break down on another end. Because you
Right.
commonly find these persons having midway or at the end of the project having a mental breakdown,
Breakdown,
an
right.
emotional breakdown, a
Right.
breakdown of some sort. So
Yes.
so they've developed that part of themselves. They have learned to carry the burden on that part of themselves, but the other parts of the reality or themselves is being weakened.
Right.
And I think the
Right.
best way for us to be able to take on responsibilities is in a holistic way, you know, not only in the physical sense, the mental sense, but also in the social sense, also in
Right.
the spiritual sense, also in the psychological sense, you know.
Absolutely. I agree with that, man.
So we can go into our first question, you know, at what age can someone really become responsible? If you had to put an age to it.
I don't think you can put an age to responsibility, Same way I don't think you can realistically put ages to maturity. Because I've met people who are older than me, and I know for a fact, based on what other people have told me, I am more responsible than. And there are people who are younger than me who are more responsible than me.
Yeah.
Right? So you cannot put an age to responsibility or maturity for that matter. It is about what you can handle or what you have learned to handle, right? So I think that is the truth about it. There is no a specific age, because people like to say, okay, well, when you become an adult, then you should become more responsible. And that's not true. We know very irresponsible adults. We know many of them, right? So I don't think you can realistically put an age on responsibility, but you can, generally speaking, older people tend to be more responsible, but that's not always the case.
Yeah. I like what you said there, because the ability to take on responsibility doesn't only come with age, although that helps.
Right.
But it also comes with temperament or personality.
Right.
Some
right.
people are more conscientious. They have that devil behind them, beating them, get this thing done.
Right.
They have that conscientiousness pushing
Yeah.
them, saying, get it done. While some others may not be as conscientious, but be more open and be more wanting to experience other things, and not really want to focus on that one task. And
Right.
it also has to go into your life experience. Sometimes you've been beaten into the role of taking on responsibility.
Right. Right.
So I guess it's a plethora of different things, especially when someone has been brought up in the sense of your mother is not there, or your father is not there, and you have a younger sibling. You have to be responsible to guide that person.
Right.
Or in another sense, we all know that the sad story of maybe the parents might be poor, and they have to drop out of school, get a job to help. Life shakes us and breaks us in many different ways, and some people have to be more mature at the age, not as a blessing. But others may see it as a blessing, but to themselves, it's like a curse. What do you think of that?
Well, it's a tricky thing. I think these people, if they let it happen to them, they can be the best of our society. Now, I'm not saying that I don't believe that bad things are good, because obviously they're bad, but I think that these things help mold people if they let it mold them. All of us go through terrible things in our lives. All of us go through terrible things in our lives, right? Now, you might want to rank, I might have had it worse than that person, but I think if we utilize the lessons, if we take the lessons from these things, from these occasions, then I think we can really expand our horizons. So yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, because it's not what you see, is what you look for.
Right.
If you're in the situation and you're looking for the negative, you will find a negative.
Yeah, absolutely.
that's very cliche to say, oh man, I hate cliches because in the hardship of poverty or the hardship of a terrible relationship or the hardship of whatever, you will not
Mm.
want to be looking for positivity. But
Absolutely not.
yeah, but sometimes in the thick of it,
Mhm,
in the hurt of it, in the pain of it, we
mhm,
we can reflect in the aftermath because during the situation, the emotions is raging, we might not be
mhm.
level-headed. We most probably will not be level-headed. But after in the aftermath, and I believe being a Christian, it helps us to mature in the sense of looking at the bigger picture. We all like
Yeah,
to use the line, all things work together for
yeah,
good for
for
those
good.
who love the Lord,
Hmm.
and so on and so forth. So, how do you think your Christianity has helped you embrace responsibility? Does it have to be God looking down on your shoulder, or in a sense of I must be a better man?
All right. Well, the way I choose to look at it is that God put me in charge of certain things, right? He gave you dominion over certain things, right? So dominion means that you must take responsibility of it, right? So that's how I see it. Not that he's like a supervisor looking over my shoulder, constantly, minding what I am doing, but rather he's given me responsibility. And if I truly believe that he's a God who I love and who loves me, I must take up that responsibility. So I think that's how that connection is what the connection that I see.
Yeah, because I like the way you said because we can often fall into the shadow of fear of
Mm-hmm.
if I don't carry this responsibility, God will beat me with a strap on my back.
Right.
So in that sense,
Mm-hmm.
God becomes the slave master, we become the slave
Right.
of
Mm-hmm.
responsibility. But I think in a sense we need to look at it as a privilege, I guess that's what you're saying, as a
Yes.
privilege, as an honor that God is entrusting me with this task and I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to let him down. And I
Exactly.
guess that's where the respectable love relationship comes if when it comes to God, understanding that He is my friend and so on and so forth, but He has given me certain tasks and He expects good of me, He expects what of me, you know? So
Absolutely.
how do you feel or how do you I don't say reprimand, but how do you deal when people fail to live up to the responsibilities that you entrust to them? You know?
Well. That's a difficult task. Depend. I would say it depends on my level of responsibility over them, right? So if I am somebody who is working in a group and I am at the same level as everybody, I mean, what the best I can do is tell them to do better. But if I am the one who is in charge, then I must then find ways to pull them up. However, there's sometimes when people you try your best and you can't pull them up. So I personally believe that one of my lecturers at university told me this. He said, Quinn, when you cannot change the people, then you change the people. Meaning, if you cannot get somebody to behave in a certain way, you must replace them with somebody else who can do that job, right? Now that's never an easy thing to do. That's never a nice thing to do. But there comes a time when you need to have more responsibility around you so that you can get what you want to do done, right? So it depends on the situation. There are different things you can do. I don't think you have to be a hard task master and get rid of people just like that, but you must be able to be in a position where you can you know have them pull themselves up. Yeah, so I that's how I think about it.
Yeah, because being in leadership positions myself, it becomes very difficult when people fail your expectations. And when they fail your expectations, they don't only fail your expectations, but the expectations of the group, because
Right.
others may be relying on that person to do the task. And that
Mm-hmm.
person has been setting back the entire group. And especially if you're in a leadership position, you are looked as the one who should be contacting that
Right.
person and reprimanding them is
Mm-hmm.
never a difficult thing. And yes, yes, you have to use love and all of these glittering words,
Right.
but but love in its sense doesn't holistically change the situation. You have to have hands-on
No.
firmness, you know.
But I think being firm is an element of love, something.
Yeah,
Sometimes we think that love is just hugs and kisses and pats on the back. Because I care about somebody, I will talk to them. Because
yeah,
if I don't care about them, I will let them do whatever they want, right? If I didn't care about the development, I will not chasten them. The Bible says, who he loves, he chastens,
yeah.
right? And I think that that's the same thing that we should develop on ourselves. If you truly love somebody, if you truly care about them, feel free to pull them up because they need it, and God has put you in their lives probably for that reason. That's how I
Exactly.
see it.
You said so already in our last question up for discussion, As a man, why
Mm-hmm.
is responsibility important? As a man, why is it important? Especially in a sense, God has put men where we like to go off the agenda that God has put men there for
Right.
leaders, So
Yes.
what do- what's your thoughts on that?
I think when a man doesn't take charge, or when men don't take charge, society falls apart.
Yeah,
And that's why I think society is falling apart now. It's not that women are dominating, right? It's because we are not taking charge. We are not doing our roles, and the ladies have no choice but to assume certain positions. So I think um it's important for us to take charge because society needs us, our families need us, our churches need us, our businesses need us. Society needs men to take charge. And when they take charge, things become better, right? If you got any society with men who are committed to their work, who are not abusive, but who are leaders in their community, the society thrives. It always thrives, right? And everybody does well when men do well. Because when men truly are doing well, then they will put it over onto their wives or their girlfriends, and then they put it over even further onto their children. So I think it's important for men to take charge.
yeah, and I believe that's what's really breaking down our society, breaking down the family, breaking down the youth, breaking down the children, because there's not. I'll not say there's not, but what is being purported by social
Mm-hmm.
media is not strong, responsible men who
No.
make an honest living, who take their time, who are patient, who are God fearing, who are who are men who take on the role of being leaders. But we
Mm-hmm.
see um, thugs,
Yeah.
drug lords, immorality, promiscuity, and all these things being pushed forward. And the men who growing up do not really understand the act of taking responsibility, and without any male role model, they want to go into drugs, smoking weed,
Mm-hmm.
drinking,
Mm-hmm.
promiscuity, leaving the single mothers to continue the cycle. And when they reach a certain age, they might have a chance of coming to an understanding, but I don't want to say it's too late, but the damage has already been done.
Been
You
done.
know?
Yeah. Facts. I agree with that 100%, man. I agree with that. And that's why I would always say that it's important for men to take charge. If men do not take charge, then, like I said earlier on, everything fall down. Everything fall down. Without men in our society, things would fall apart. So if you're a man who is listening to this, if you're a man who is tuned into this podcast, look at the areas in your life and take charge of them. Because without taking charge of these areas in your life, not only you will suffer, but those around you will suffer. So,
And if we are to be honest with ourselves as men, men find meaning in responsibility. And
yes.
we find meaning in being able to keep a job, being able to maintain a household, be the provider. All of these things are responsibilities. Men find meaning in responsibility, and with if that I guess is one of the main factors, not the only factors, but one of the main factors that is an existential crisis for men right now, having
Mm-hmm.
no meaning in life because they refuse to maintain a job, they refuse to stay in a committed relationship, they
Mm-hmm.
refuse to carry on and mentor their own children, but leave
Mm-hmm.
them for single motherhood, all
Mm-hmm.
these things. But as we come to a close, any last words of encouragement and you can speak about your business a little more on your social media platforms, and I'll put the link in the bio of the podcast.
Okay. Thank you so very much. So, my last words, like I said throughout this thing, take charge of the elements in your life, right? I have done it in my life and I've seen the benefits from it. There are several men and women who have done it in their lives and are consistently reaping the benefits of taking charge in their lives. So take charge in your life. Take charge of things in your family life, take charge in your professional life, take charge in your life, right? So that's my last word of advice. In terms of business wise, my business is Delicious Food. You can find us on Instagram at Delicious Food 758. My podcast is Game Changers. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. I will send something, all the links, so you can listen to our amazing guests. Delicious is a treat business with cakes, with small treats and these type of things. We try to cater to tastes that are dynamic and treats that don't currently exist in St. Lucia. So treats from outside of St. Lucia. So that's our market there. For Game Changers, our focus is youth empowerment. Young people who are making a difference, like Samson, who are making a difference in their society and their world. If you want to hear more about these young people, join us across platforms. Like I said, on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, you can download and listen to the Game Changers podcast. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, thank you once more for joining us, my brother. And
Thank you
thank
for
you
having me.
for listening. Stay tuned for next week's episode.
All right, sir.